Well, hello and welcome back to Automation Answers. With me is Tobias. Tobias, great to connect. Tobias is the Senior Vice President of Warehouse and Automation Equipment at Jungheinrich, if that's correct in saying.
That is almost correct. Yeah, it's Senior Vice President, Automation and Warehouse Equipment, but it's the same basically, so that's fine.
Yeah. Good.
Hello, nice to be here.
Thanks for coming on. How's things? Good trade show so far. Very busy, I'm hoping.
Trade show is fantastic. Mm-hmm. We had an extremely busy day today. So we have the biggest stand on the booth, on the fair, but it was so crowded we couldn't move anymore. Mm-hmm. So we actually asked our own staff to get a bit out of the stand so customers can come in. Because we didn't have place anymore.
Okay.
So that's a good sign. It's a good sign. Yeah.
Very good from time. Yeah. And for those that don't know, I know you've been with Jungheinrich for a long time, but for individuals that might not know you, would you mind just giving a bit of an introduction into yourself, the positions you've had with Jungheinrich as well?
Yes. So my name is Tobias. I've worked with Jungheinrich for almost 20 years now. Mm-hmm. So I'm a familiar one to the company, as most of the colleagues actually in Jungheinrich. Yeah. And I'm not coming from the automation business originally. I started in the factory for manual trucks, worked there for a couple of years, went to France for a couple of years, went back to Germany in the sales organization for a couple of years, and actually joined the automation segment just 1.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So just recently. But it's one of the most fascinating parts of our company. So it's really great to be there.
Yeah, excellent. And how have you found, just a personal question, kind of the transition from the manual side to the automation side as from your personal perspective? Any challenges, any learns?
The reason why I did it is due to the talks and discussions I had with the customers. I worked a lot in sales, and I actually experienced how the topic the customers want to talk to changed over the years. Like 10 years ago, they had a lot of questions about manual truck fleets and rental models and how do you do that? But the topic changed a lot, and there was not any single customer discussion in the last years where the customers didn't raise the topic of automation. Mm-hmm. How can I do it? Do you have any advice? Can you consult me on that? Mm-hmm. And this is what made it really interesting to me. And I realized the business changes. The business really changes. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be part of the change. I wanted to be in the middle of the next generation of intralogistics.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I changed.
Yeah. And you mentioned kind of segues quite nicely, but you mentioned when you were speaking with customers, they're talking about that change, etc. My question to you is, what's your overall thoughts on the market conditions? Are you seeing extensions? Are you seeing brownfield projects? Are you seeing greenfield projects? Are you seeing customers going from manual to automated systems? What's your general perception on the market?
Actually, I think that the market is very dynamic. Maybe one statement about automation. I think it was a topic that was extremely hyped in the last years. You know? And when you looked at official reports, there were incredible growth rates in there. And I think we become more and more realistic now. I think the hype is not as big as we thought it is. It is not as easy as it seemed to be to go into automation. Mm-hmm. And customers, but also suppliers become more and more realistic, and we come to a slower growth, but a steady growth. And I think that's what we will see also in the next years. Then the other thing we see at the moment that where in the last 3-4 years we had a lot of greenfield application and demands in the market that also slowed a bit down, and we have more and more customer demands concerning brownfield automation, which actually is more difficult to fulfill. So that's another trend we see. Mm-hmm. And maybe a third trend, we also see consolidation in the market. We had a lot of startups who tried to enter the market, good startups, innovative startups, but we see that it's not so easy to grow in that market, to be profitable in the market. Mm-hmm. And we see a lot of consolidation going on at the moment. And I think that will also continue. And I believe that in a couple of years, we will come to a situation where we have far less companies in that market, but which have a certain size. So they can also have profitable business, scale the business, and have a reason to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does everyone need automation?
Certainly not. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a good question, actually.
Yeah.
Because of course we want to sell automation. But we also have to be realistic. And automation is expensive. And automation is complicated to introduce. Not always, but it's certainly more complicated than just using a manual solution. And it depends on what the customer needs. For instance, if you have a single shift application, if you have a very easy application, you only use intralogistics 2, 3, 4 times a day, that's it. It doesn't make any sense to go into automation. But also if the process is extremely complex, if you cannot standardize the process, if you have different load carriers, etc., automation might be too complicated and too complex to introduce. You also have to look at the setting, if it's really worth going that way or not. So that's a bit how we see it. And we really need to have an open discussion with the customer. First, is it worth it? Is there a business case behind? And second, is it possible?
Yeah. Sorry, no, I sprung that question on you. It's just something you mentioned earlier. It triggered that question. I think you mentioned kind of about the market trends and the dynamics. Probably in the last, 3, 4, 5 years, automation maybe became a commodity and everyone just wanted it because their next door neighbor had it or they saw this cool solution and they were like, great, I need this. But without actually thinking, okay, is this right for my business? Actually considering the cost, how it integrates within their business and the wider solution. So yeah, I think that part of the hype was behind that, of people just going, yeah, it's cool, it's advanced, it's the future, let's invest in it. But you're right, it's actually probably not for everyone.
And I think
right?
many overestimated the topic a bit,
yeah.
And they didn't realize how hard it is to introduce automation on the shop floor, in the warehouse.
Yeah.
You really need to look at the processes. You need to be ready to change your processes. You need to be ready to get your people integrated into the process, which also is not so easy often. And only if you're ready to do all these changes on your side as well, and accept that implementing realization is also not just a product issue, but has a lot to do with processes, has a lot to do with software, with integration into IT landscapes. When you're ready to accept all that, then you're ready for automation.
So it's not just waking up one day and seeing what your neighbor has, no? It's
Certainly not.
A lot more intense than that.
Certainly
okay.
not.
Good to know. And the main topic of the podcast and the conversation, I'd love to get your thoughts and kind of the Jungheinrich perspective around kind of consulting a customer and bringing them through the automation journey. Very high level question. What does consulting as a broad term mean to yourself and Jungheinrich when it comes to customers?
Maybe I try to answer a bit differently, not straight, but then we can see if the answer is correct or not. Yeah. I think one important issue is, and that is our view on automation, we don't want to sell a product. We want to sell a solution to the customer. And product can be one part of that solution. And if we want to have a successful automation, we need to make sure that the customer and the customer's application is ready for automation. And this starts from the very beginning by looking at the customer processes, at the customer material flow. So we analyze the material flow, we analyze the processes, and then we start consulting the customer and trying to give him advice if the process as we see it at the moment is ready to be automated or not. And if it's not ready, then we try to give him advice. What could you change? For instance, by standardizing the processes, by standardizing load carriers, maybe by even shifting some hardware in the warehouse to have more space for automation. And this is all part of consulting. And I believe this is extremely important, because if we don't do it, then the possibility is very high that automation won't be successful. And this is what we tried also to sell our customers. Don't just buy a product, buy a solution, and that includes the consulting at the very beginning. Make sure you're ready for automation. And then when you continue, make sure that you do not just buy the product, but that you buy the whole system. That means also the integration of the product into your processes, the integration of the product into your IT, and extremely important, make sure that you also think of everything that you need once the solution is installed, and that is especially service and support.
Yeah,
because there's nothing worse than an automated system that's not running. And it's not just a manual truck that you can replace by a second manual truck. If the automated part does not work, the warehouse stands still.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's how we see consulting and everything that goes with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And talk me through, you touched on it there in terms of some of the points you mentioned, but the gradual steps that a customer might go through, because as I'm sure it's a fair statement, but someone doesn't just wake up one day, they have a very manual process and then they decide to invest 10 or 20 million in completely automating their warehouse. Maybe they might, it might not work very well. As you mentioned, it's very complex, but what's kind of the gradual steps that a customer would go through, or you would take a customer through?
Yeah. I mean, there are also customers who invest right away into 20 million warehouse, but they're a bit raw. I admit, So most are very unsecure how to automate, and they want to do a journey, and they want to see if it works, and they want to build trust also in automation. And I think that's the right way. And you need, as a customer, you don't just need to build trust into automation, you also need to build trust into the partner you're doing automation with. Mm-hmm. Because as I said, it's not just you sell a product and then you're away. You're together with the customers for a very long time period, mm-hmm. from consulting through integration, installation, until service and support. So this can be many, many years. So we often tell customers, try to find the right automated solution, but also try to find the right partner you trust in.
Yeah.
And do it step by step. Learn how you do it. Learn automation and learn your partner. Get to know your partner. And this is how we try to walk our customers through the journey. And what we often do is we go into warehouse, and then often we find a first possible solution how we can automate a first process that might easily be standardized, and then we propose the customer, let's start, let's automate this process, and see how it runs. Mm-hmm. See also if the service is reliable, see if the service is available when you need it, see if integration runs smoothly, see if your people are also ready to accept automation in your warehouse. And then if everything runs smoothly, we take the next step. That might be more complicated. And then from there, we take it on. Mm-hmm. This is how we try to be with our customers on this journey.
Yeah. And you mentioned a small point there. How important is the understanding in terms of the after service and the maintenance on said equipment, whether that's with a residence team that are there full time, or if they have field service engineers that are servicing the sites, or even hotline engineers doing things remotely? How important is the service element of the automation piece?
I believe it's the most crucial issue, actually. Often customers don't realize that. But just imagine, before you might have, in our case, maybe a fleet of, 20 manual trucks. And if one truck breaks down, that's not an issue. Because then instead of the 20th truck, you take the 19th truck, and he can also do the work as long as the 20th truck needs to be repaired. And you don't have an issue in your warehouse. Now, if you have an automated part in your warehouse or full automation installation, and imagine something goes wrong, the software has a bug, for instance, the whole automation stands still and nothing gets out of the warehouse. And that's often a drama, depending on what the warehouse does. If the warehouse supplies production, for instance, then production stands still. Mm-hmm. That's a drama. Mm-hmm. Or if you have an e-commerce and you cannot deliver, that's a drama. So automation is far more crucial, and you need to make sure that you have also, again, a good partner that you trust and that is able to support and service your installation. And that has different aspects. It always starts with a quick analysis, and what we do if something goes wrong, or if there's a breakdown or an issue, first we try to go remotely within minutes, basically, to check if we find the problem, and maybe we can solve it even remotely because it's just a parameter in the software that does not fit. That's the easiest part, and we can be very, very quick with that. If we see that's an issue that might be a bit more difficult, then it's important that you have competent technicians who are really close, who don't need to fly in the next days, but who can take the car and are at the customer side in 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And hopefully they can fix the issue. Mm-hmm. And then there might be another issue that the spare part is missing, for instance, that you need to change. The next thing you need to make sure, how do I get the spare part as quick as possible? What we often do, we consult our customers, take a couple of spare parts in your warehouse, because these are the most important ones. And in case you need it, hopefully it's never the case, but in case you need it, it's there. And you can exchange it within the next hour, 2 hours. Or if that is not the case, then make sure you have a partner who has a very, very good logistics network in the background and who is able to deliver spare parts in a very, very short period of time. And as a customer, I would really check all these points. Is everything there? And can I be sure that my installation runs smoothly? That's what I discuss with customers when we talk about service.
Yeah. Excellent, thanks. And again, we touched on it there. So maybe outside of neglecting, I guess, the service side, do you see any kind of common mistakes or common issues with a customer that's going from manual to automated solutions, or just in general in the automated solution space? Obviously, neglecting service and maintenance is, I assume, quite a big one and one of them. But any other areas that you see where you add value?
I think there are three issues that come up quite often. First, that's the assumption that we can replace a manual process by an automated process without changing anything. And most of the times, this is not the best way to do it, because automation has different requirements. We don't have a driver who can make quick decisions. We need to be very sure what the process shall look like. So we need to be sure that the process has a certain standard that we can then automate. So this is the first thing. Accept that you don't just replace manual with an automated system, but try to not just look at the product, but at the process and make sure the process is ready for automation. This is the first issue. The second issue, don't forget that automation is mostly software. And software is not a standalone issue, but it needs to be integrated into your IT landscape in the warehouse. So whenever you think about automation, don't just look at the product that you maybe see physically, but make sure that the software is a good software, of course, and that the software can be integrated into your IT landscape and take time to make that sure. And only if you have solved all those issues, start with the implementation. And the second then, of course, has to do with service. We just discussed service, but also accept that automation doesn't always run at a 100% rate at the very beginning. There will be mistakes and errors. That is totally normal.
Well, it's the same with manual processes as well, right?
Actually,
people make just as much mistakes.
I mean, there shouldn't be a lot. There should be very few. But they may happen. And then make sure that you have not just a partner with a good service network, but that you also train your own people, that they know what to do, that they know how to handle those errors. Often this is very easy to handle and they can do it themselves and it's not an issue. But take your time, train your people, familiarize them with the automated installation, and then you will see it runs quite smoothly.
Excellent. And bigger picture, kind of in intralogistics as a whole, I'm a big Formula One fan, so I know Nico Rosberg is, of course, one of your ambassadors and a huge...
He was at the Logimat actually today.
I didn't see it. Okay.
He was at our stand, and there was a race, a PlayStation race, I think, between him and our sales board member.
Okay, who won?
Of course, our sales board member. We don't have to discuss that. It's a she, and she's really pushy. It's good.
The team. I see. Awesome.
No, she's great. She's really great.
Great. But I know obviously a big kind of voice and strategy of his is sustainability, and I know that kind of ties in with Jungheinrich as well. But kind of outside of going from a manual to an automated solution and thinking about kind of sustainability and the bigger piece, what do you feel is important to customers and the wider intralogistics space going forward outside of automation when it comes to battery technology or sustainability or anything else outside of automation?
Sustainability is a good issue, often linked to energy efficiency, which is one of our core topics at Jungheinrich. But sustainability, not so much the smaller customers, but bigger customers often include it now into their tenders. They really expect from their suppliers that they have a certain sustainability standard. So you can have different degrees of sustainability. You can have different official proof points that you're very sustainable. We have, for instance, the EcoVadis sign that we received, platinum. That's very good because we believe sustainability is important. But sustainability is not just important for the sales process and for the customers. This is my opinion. Sustainability is also important for us who we work at Jungheinrich. Because I like to work for a company that thinks sustainability is important, that makes me proud of the company. And I think that's the case for a lot of employees, and that also motivates employees to work for that company. And we really live it. And to give you some easy examples, it's, of course, we try to have suppliers who are very sustainable. Of course, we try to reduce energy in our production processes as much as possible. Of course, we try to have products who are sustainable. But it's also the simple things. We have company cars. We can only drive electric cars. Nothing else is allowed. Just to make clear, we are a sustainable company. We have solar panels on all our factories because we want to have our own energy supply in the factories, etc. So these are small proof points, but they are very strong symbols. Not just for customers, also for us in the company. So sustainability is a big issue for us outside of automation.
Brilliant. And final question in concluding kind of the whole conversation, what piece of technology, it can be anything in intralogistics, in automation, or just in the wider world that excites you personally? What are you looking at and going, this is cool?
You told me that question is coming, so I was a bit prepared.
Yeah,
I'm a bit prepared.
Good.
But I had to think of that, because I think that's not an easy question. And I remembered a trip to the US, and what I saw there was quite impressive. I'm going back to intralogistics in the warehouse, and what I saw there were drones. And drones were flying in that warehouse, and the drones were flying in the racking aisles, and they were actually checking the barcodes in the racking aisles. And this is how they made sure if everything is in place. Where to find the different goods, and how do you call that? In German, it's Inventur.
Inventory management, inventory control.
This is how they do inventory management. And that was really impressive to see. And it's not just one drone, it's several drones who fly at the same time through the warehouse, do the job. That, from my point of view, is something really, really impressive.
Awesome. I think as well, there's a few pilots that have happened in the UK and in the US as well. I saw Amazon were doing it. They were taking that to the next level, but they were doing drone deliveries so the delivery drivers have to skip traffic, right? So
I've heard it, but I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either. I've seen a few pilot projects. Maybe they didn't go very well. I don't know. But that's drones.
I need to look at YouTube. Maybe they should show it somewhere.
That's drones to the next level. But no, I agree. Interesting point. Great. Well, that concludes the podcast. I mean, pleasure having you on. Thanks for your time, Tobias, and we'll connect very soon.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Bye.